This is one of the most difficult and amazing documentaries I have ever seen. I watch 3 to 4 hours of true crime documentaries every day. This one, I could only watch one episode a day at the very most because it's so powerful and the emotions are just so difficult. I can't even imagine how the people involved would have felt. I'm not going to spoil anything at all, but towards the end, I think I will talk about a couple of the cases in depth. There are two that really left a lasting impression on me. So if you haven't seen this, please do watch it. I watched it on Crime and Investigation on Amazon Prime. Definitely watch that before you listen to me probably rambling on about it at the end. But for now, no spoilers. As the title suggests, this looks at individuals who have been accused of a crime, mostly murder. And in the run-up to their court date, in the run-up to the trial, it takes us through what their defence team is doing and whether or not they can get off being guilty or innocent. And obviously, at the end of most episodes, we find out whether or not the jury finds them guilty or innocent. And this is a mixed bag. There are some cases where I thought they are definitely innocent, and they may not have got off. There are some cases where I was kind of not really that bothered. I was kind of on the fence, didn't really feel one way or another. But it's really interesting. I will say this is biased. It's told from the perspective of the defence, and therefore they are trying to prove the innocence of these individuals. There may be certain things in this that we're not told that may have made them look incriminating. So obviously it's natural that you're going to kind of, for the most part, feel that they're innocent because this is the way that it's being told. And honestly, it is so powerful. From a legal perspective, I really love it because I love, I love law. I love the legal profession. If I could redo my life, I would be a lawyer. I haven't got the guts for it, but and I'd cry all the time. But I just, I love criminal justice. I love the justice system, even though it is flawed. I know this. So for me, seeing inside the courtrooms, seeing the court cases, God bless America for being actually allowed to film these cases. We're not allowed to film court cases in the UK. It's really interesting to see how genuine court cases pan out and what the judges are actually like and what their attitudes are like and the kind of approaches the jury have. And I am very much against trial by jury. I don't have a solution. I don't have an alternative. But I think picking 12 random people who have not necessarily got any knowledge of anything, and I know they don't have to, but I feel like you need to be able to understand the language that's being used. Even dumbing the things down for the benefit of the jury doesn't help if the jury doesn't understand what's happened or they don't understand certain terminology. Obviously, the likelihood of having 12 individual jurors who don't understand anything about the case is unlikely, no matter how much it's explained in layman's terms. But I feel like if you're going to judge on a criminal offence, you should be a criminal expert. I just do not agree with trial by jury, but as I said, I don't really have an alternative. Well, I think the judge should decide at the end of the day. But that's irrelevant to these cases. So we have got a mixed bag of cases here. A lot of them are gun crimes, and I kind of don't want to go into too much detail about any of them because I don't want to spoil it, but I will talk a little bit about a few of them. So the very first one is called wife killer or self-defense. There is video footage of a man shooting his wife. We don't necessarily see that bit, but we see a lot of CCTV footage from their own home of his wife beating him, brutally attacking him, and then shooting up in the next room while their little toddler child is there. And I just thought there was absolutely no way they can find this man guilty of doing anything that wasn't self-defense. So, as with this, some of the cases, it's not about proving whether or not they did it, but whether or not they were acting in self-defense or if they were coerced or anything like that. The second episode is another good example of kind of the different kinds of stories we get here. This is the term Munchausen's by proxy isn't bandied around too much in the episode, I guess because it's told from the perspective of the defence. They don't really want to kind of suggest that too much. But it is about a woman who has really cared for her child, but her child seems to be really sick all of the time. But a woman in the hospice or the hospital decides that actually no, this child's fine and the mother's just trying to kill him, basically. And that one, I am indecisive. I can't decide which way I think. I don't know. I just can't decide whether or not I think she was innocent or guilty. This one, it was very, very one-sided. We didn't get to hear hardly any of the testimony from the prosecution. There's a lot there that I think wasn't mentioned in the documentary, obviously because it's told from the defence. There's a lot that I would like to find out. So this one I feel was a bit too biased for me to make any kind of assessment. Hopefully there was more information for the jury, otherwise it would have been quite an unweighted debate. There are two more that I'm going to talk about, and I think I'll talk about those at the end because I want to go into some detail about them, because they're so powerful that I still can't get over it. But to sum up, before I give some spoilers, this documentary is brilliant. It's very well edited. Obviously there's a level of bias there, but that's the nature of the documentary. It's told from the perspective of the legal team supporting the defence, and we get to see the court scenes, absolutely fantastic. The pacing's really great. It goes over a long stretch. It can go from up to almost a year before the court case, before the hearing. So we get to go on quite a long journey with them over a short space of time, but I think it's very well edited. It's very well done. Where possible, as with the first case, we have use of CCTV footage, home recording system footage, to highlight things, and I still can't get over how shocking that footage was to see, to be perfectly honest. And that case as well is very, just that individual, what happens to him, whether or not he is found guilty. There are some things that are revealed about people in his life during this case, and it's heartbroken. This documentary knows which strings to pull, and I choked up on many occasions. It's raw, it's brutal, and it's heart-racing. Okay, spoilers from now. So episode 4 is about a murder that was committed about 10 years previously, and they suddenly decide that they have a suspect who is a 13-year-old girl at the time. So she's 23 or so now, and spoiler, as I said, she's found guilty on no evidence. The only bit of evidence is that there was a fingerprint on a roll of duct tape, but there was an explanation for how that fingerprint could have got there. So how could they convict her of this crime beyond reasonable doubt when the only bit of evidence was one fingerprint on a roll of duct tape that could have got on there from an external source? And the defence explained this very well, and they went into detail about how that could have got on there, and they made that quite clear. So how could a jury convict her beyond reasonable doubt just based on that one? That's it. That is absolutely all there was. There's no motive. The fact that the other individual who was being accused of the crime was let off makes no sense whatsoever. I do not understand that, and I think that jury needed to take a long, hard look at what they did, and I hope they feel exceptionally guilty now, because their attitude was despicable. And I'm not saying she definitely didn't do it. I'm just saying that she could not have been convicted beyond reasonable doubt. Absolutely not. The other one, the two-parter, where the individual finds his mother dead on the floor, and he is accused immediately. He is being the suspect. This one, the fact that it ended as a two-parter tore me up, because I couldn't watch another episode, but I was so desperate to see it, and I kind of just had to wait. I think I waited 3 or 4 days to watch the final episode, knowing that it was also the final episode of the actual series, because I couldn't bring myself to find out the verdict. And as this episode panned out and they gave the verdict at the end, I actually burst into tears, because you're there. You are there with them. It's such an immersive experience. Quite a painful one, but it is absolutely fantastic. If you haven't seen it, You must watch this documentary series. I can't stress that enough. Obviously, if you haven't seen it and you're still listening to me, I apologise for spoiling anything. But it's incredible. It's one of the most powerful documentary series I've seen. And it's one that I won't watch again because I'm actually getting emotional. But obviously, if there's a second series, which I really hope there is, I will watch that. But having seen these episodes once, I can't watch them again. It's also very powerful because actually, for that case that I mentioned about the young girl who was accused of murder, as soon as this documentary finished, I googled her and found a petition for her to have a retrial, and I signed that petition. So this documentary is doing some great things in terms of raising awareness, not just of flaws within the judiciary system, but also with these individuals who may actually deserve to have a free life. It's powerful. It's incredible. It's only 8 episodes. My heart wishes it was longer, but at the same time, it really doesn't, because it's really difficult to watch. It's fantastic. Please check it out. You will not be disappointed.